I got questions. Dr. Fauci, you need to be real clear. I got to bring this up because I just recently watched the committee meeting with Dr. Fauci and the coronavirus and them questioning him on some of the things that he says. And there's just one particular part of this whole thing. And now, mind you, this was a long deposition. I forgot what it was, or press conference. I don't even know if it was not a press conference. What is not a press conference? He was going before Congress talking about the coronavirus and, you know, just some of the things that are said, some of the falsehoods. Look, I've been saying this and I've been posting this on my social medias about something ain't adding up about this coronavirus. Is it deadly? Is it not deadly? I'm not going to talk about the mask today, but should we wear the mask? Shouldn't we wear the mask? Because one time they're saying we should, one time we're saying ain't, and the science says it doesn't work, and then people are acting like the science is wrong, but nobody else is bringing up any other science. Just all this crazy stuff about surrounding the coronavirus that don't make sense. First of all, let me say this first, because there's some of you guys who are nurses who are talking about, oh, I've been dealing with this coronavirus. Look, I'm not saying people don't die from it. People are not having bad reactions to a virus. That's what a virus is. That's what happens. It happened with N1H1. It happened with swine flu. It happens with the regular flu. People get sick. Sometimes they even die as a result of it. Nobody's saying that doesn't happen. Nobody's saying that this thing isn't real. What I'm saying is something ain't adding up about the information. What I'm saying is somebody lying and overblowing this thing for a reason. Got us all running around scared, wearing masks. Now I want to put some goggles on and all this stuff. We're going to talk about that in another video. But I'm just saying there are questions that need to be asked. And in this Congress, Congress, whatever they call this thing, I can't even remember what they call it. But in the questioning, there was a line in questioning that I had questions to, and it's talking about how we're facing all these lockdowns. We're locked down in the house, and then what can be open and what can't be open. I've been saying this for a while. Like, who in the world can decide who is essential and who is not? Not only that, we're talking about how it spreads, but yet things like Walmart is open. Mind you, I hear some of y'all with the negativity. Well, Walmart has to stay open because they grocery store, we get our essentials from there. They can also deliver like Amazon. So how are they allowed to have their stores open, but churches, gyms, all these people can't? They can't. And then, matter of fact, who gave them the authority? Because I've been searching through law, and I even searched through in times of pandemic. Who gives our states the authority to tell an individual, which a business is, or an individual, that they cannot open the doors to their livelihood? Who gave them that right? I don't think anybody gave them that right, but, you know, I'm still searching. People are still asking that question. But I want to show this video right here, and I want to show you the line of questioning that one of the congressmen asked, and I just think this is very, 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 very interesting. Look at it right here.
The chair now recognizes for 5 minutes Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Fauci, do protests increase the spread of the virus?
Do protests increase the spread of the virus? I think I can make a general statement.
Well, 500,000 protesters on June 6th alone. Yeah. I'm just asking that number of people, does it increase the spread of the virus?
Crowding together, particularly when you're not wearing a mask, contributes to the spread of the virus.
Should we limit the protesting?
I'm not sure what you mean. How do we say limit the protesting?
Should government limit the protesting?
I don't think that's relevant to.
Well, you just said if it increases the spread of the virus. I'm just asking, should we limit it?
Well, I'm not in a position to determine what the government can do in a forceful way.
Well, you make all kinds of recommendations. You make comments on dating, on baseball, on everything you can imagine. I'm just asking you. You just said that protests increase the spread. I'm just asking you, should we try to limit the protests?
No, I think I would leave that to people who have more of a position to do that. I can tell you.
Government stopping people from going to church, Dr. Fauci?
Yeah.
Last week in the Calvary Chapel case, 5 liberals on the Supreme Court said it was okay for Nevada to limit church services. Justice Gorsuch said it best. He said, there's no world in which the Constitution permits Nevada to favor Caesar's Palace over Calvary Chapel. I'm just asking, is there a world where the Constitution says you can favor one First Amendment liberty, protesting, over another, practicing your faith?
I'm not favoring anybody over anybody. I'm just making a statement that's a broad statement that avoid crowds of any type, no matter where you are, because that leads to the acquisition and transmission. And I don't judge one crowd versus another crowd. When you're in a crowd, particularly if you're not wearing a mask, that induces the spread.
It's a simple question, Doctor. Should we limit the protests? Government is obviously limiting people going to church. And look, there's been no violence that I can see at church. I haven't seen people during a church service go out and harm police officers or burn buildings. But we know that, for 63 days, 9 weeks, it's been happening in Portland.
Right. Yeah.
Well, one night in Chicago, 49 officers were injured, but no limit to protest. But boy, you can't go to church on Sunday.
What was the?
I don't know how many times I can answer that. I'm not going to opine on limiting anything. I'm just going to tell you.
You've opined on a lot of things, Dr. Fauci.
Yeah, but I've never.
This is something that directly impacts the spread of the virus, and I'm asking your position on the protest.
Yeah, I'm not going to opine on limiting anything. I'm telling you what it is, the danger. And you can make your own conclusion about that. You should stay away from crowds, no matter where the crowds are.
Government has stopped people from going to work. In fact, just in New Jersey 4 days ago, Ian Smith, Frank Trombetta were arrested for trying to operate their business, their gym. They were arrested. But my bet is if these two individuals who own this gym were outside just in front of their gym, and all the people who were working out in their gym were outside protesting, they'd been just fine. But because they were in the gym working out, actually running their business, they got arrested. You think that's okay?
I'm not going to opine on who gets arrested and who does not. You get where I'm going. I'm telling you, as a public health official, I say crowds.
Do you see the inconsistency, though, Dr. Fauci?
There's no inconsistency, Congressman.
So you're allowed to protest millions of people on one day in crowds yelling, screaming, but you try to run your business, you get arrested? And if you stood right outside of that same business and protested, you wouldn't get arrested? You don't see an inconsistency there?
I don't understand what you're asking me as a public health official to opine on who should get arrested or not. That's not my position. You could ask it as much as you
You've
want,
advocated for
and I'm
certain
not gonna
businesses.
answer it.
You've advocated for certain businesses to be shut down. I'm just asking you on your position on the protest. I haven't seen one. We've heard a lot about hair salons. I haven't seen one hairstylist who, between haircuts, goes out and attacks police or sets something on fire. But we've seen all kinds of that stuff during protests, and we know the protests actually increase the spread of the virus. You've said that.
I said crowds. I didn't say specifically. I didn't say protests do anything.
So the protests don't increase the spread of the virus?
I didn't say that. You're putting words in my mouth.
No, I just want an answer to the question. Do the protests increase the spread of the virus?
I don't have any scientific evidence that anything. I can tell you that crowds are known, particularly when you don't have a mask, to increase the acquisition and transmission. No matter what the crowd is.
So you don't have a position on whether the protests increase the spread of the virus or don't increase the spread of the virus?
I'm saying that crowds, wherever the crowds are, can give you an increased probability that there's going to be acquisition and transmission.
But do you understand Americans' concern? Protesting, particularly according to the Democrats, is just fine, but you can't go to work, you can't go to school, you can't go to church. There's limits placed on all three of those fundamental activities, First Amendment activities, but protesting is just fine.
So you see that. I had to play that whole part of that video so you guys are going to understand. So he asked a simple question. Now, mind you, this is not this is not a video against protest or who can protest or not. I believe that everybody should have the right to protest. And I personally don't believe you should be putting limits on protests. Also, I don't believe you should be locking down churches and gyms and all this stuff because of a virus. That's a whole nother thing. I think it should be fair. And this is what Congressman Jordan was trying to get across. He asked a simple question. And this is what kills me about everybody who's talking about Fauci this, Fauci's been lying. And I don't care how you say it, but he's been lying. I can show you a few videos where he says one thing and then says a whole nother thing later on because it's politically correct to say it. And none of what he's saying, he's even showing the science. He used to show the science. when he was talking about certain things and he showed the science, he talked about science behind, but now when he said the opposite of that science, then he doesn't quote any science that backs it up. He just say, this is what I do. And what I like about it is the same thing he does when it comes to mask wearing. People are always saying like, and which y'all got to understand with mask wearing, and I'm not trying to talk about mask wearing. Mask wearing is not a federal mandate, guys. It is still a federal recommendation. This is what I like about how politicians just know how to use their words, but dummies like us who think we know think we know what we're talking about. We want to argue, no, you have to wear mask. You need to wear your mask because you're saving lives and you're going to go to jail. And then we got people running around in Walmarts and Targets telling on people who don't wear masks. You know, this is dumbness because it's required federally, but it's not mandated. And I'm going to tell you why, because they can't legally do that. The states are mandating it, depending on what state it is. Their governors are mandated, but it's based on something political, not based on law. That's where there's a lot of controversy in places like where I live in California. Not only that, New York and some other places who are mandating or having actually issues where the citizens are fighting this. He would say stuff like that and then turn it around. Like in this situation, he asked him a simple question, which was, should we? So he asked him, do protests spread virus? Very simple thing. Yes or no? So he goes to say, he avoids that question. And I'm going to tell you why he avoided that question right here. Reason why he's avoiding that question, I'm prefacing this, is because it's not politically okay to say it does. People are getting literally canceled and getting their videos taken down by certain social medias for saying protests help spread the virus, right? But he says, I'm saying large crowds, right? I'm saying he refuses to answer the question. Now he kind of is answering the question, and I'm not gonna give Congressman Jordan too much praise because he kind of answered the question, so you can kind of assume it. The thing is, you just understand he don't want to say protest. I get it. I wouldn't want to say it either because I wouldn't want to get canceled either. The way things going nowadays, everybody's canceling everybody for everything. Oh, you black? I'm canceling you. You white? I'm canceling you. Oh, you just said that you like the color green. You're canceled because I don't like green. Green is offensive, right? So he didn't say it. He said large crowds. But reason why Congressman Jordan was asking Fauci, why can't you answer the question? Because as he said in there, you can make all of these recommendations on what businesses need to shut down, what large gatherings can happen like gyms and churches and things like that. And I do agree with this. Now, I'm separating protest from riots because I believe you can protest, but once it turns to a riot, it's time to go. Get up out of there, right? It's done. The protest is done because it's no longer a protest. And if you're sitting there trying to peacefully protest while people are rioting, that's exactly why you get gassed and pepper spray. That's stupid. And they want to get on the news and say, oh, these police officers were gassing innocent protesters. If your dumb tail stayed there when the rioting started, then of course. You're just a victim of being in the area where they're rioting. If somebody started rioting around me, I'm gone. I'm out of there. I already know what time of day that is. Because if I'm going to be peaceful and get something across, I don't want to be sitting in jail. That ain't my cause. My cause ain't to sit in jail. My cause is to protest. Not to riot, not to bust things down, not burn things, protest, right? So he asked, because obviously these protests are drawing tens of thousands of people, right? So he's asking them, is this something that the states should shut down, right? Now, mind you, he's saying it. Now, some of y'all are like, oh, it's different. It's different with a protest than a church. It's not, because it's actually a fundamental question of rights. People have the right to assemble. People have the right to freedom of religion, freedom of expression, freedom of speech. And until those things are gone, which I feel like that's where we're going, we still have to uphold that by law. So if a protest has a right to assemble, then a church has the right to assemble. So how in the world are you saying that A church can't assemble, but a protest can. And if you're basing off of essentialness, then a protest is definitely not essential. It's not, especially if we're saying it's because of a pandemic or because we're trying to save lives and be healthy. You can't have it both ways. You can't tell church people that they can't go to church. You can't tell people that they can't go to a gym where it's really sanitized, or people opening up their salons so that they can eat and feed their families, because obviously y'all see now that the stimulus stuff ain't working, and you see they just cut the whole unemployment thing down some. So people are not going to be getting what they were getting. So it don't work. So people got to go out and eat, people. And you're mad at people because they want to feed their families and saying that you're going to kill people and you don't care about people. But somebody like me who don't get a stimulus has to sit in the house and worry about what I'm going to eat tomorrow because I'm not getting anything from the government. But that, I digress, right? I digress for that. I didn't get a stimulus check. Mine's, I don't know what happened to it. They haven't told me if I was getting one. But anyways, so he started getting on Fauci about this, and Fauci didn't want to say. And what I really loved about, and this is what I'm telling you guys, this is why y'all got to start watching instead of jumping off on what people say. Just start watching some stuff. Every Republican is not bad, and I'm telling you, all you conservatives, every Democrat is not bad. Let's stop acting like that. There's some bad apples in both parties. There's some bad apples everywhere. We need to stop voting and making decisions based on a block of people, because the good ones, they don't get seen because the bad ones are the ones that are leading the charge. Protesters, we need to be a little bit smarter, because guess what? You're not leading the charge. The protesters are. That's why we got the problem. And if you look at the news, they're making it that way. They're making it that way, clumping you guys in with the rioters, and that's what's fueling all this. Because guess what? The rioters, you do not have a right to riot. That's not the law. It said peaceably protest. That's the right. Not riot and burn things down. That is criminal. And you will get police force on that. And nowadays, military, because you're getting rid of the police like dummies. But that's a whole nother topic. We'll talk about that later. But let's go back to Fauci, because I don't want to make this video too long. So Fauci refused to say anything about protesters, but he had opinions about everything else. I'm going to show you this article right here. Let's look at this right here. It says right here, Dr. Fauci's 10 places you're most likely to catch coronavirus. Now, mind you, I'm saying this because listen to the video that I just showed you. He did not want to say, he said, it's not my place to say whether a protest should be shut down or not. Or not even just that. He didn't even want to say that the coronavirus can spread during a protest. He didn't want to say that. But he can say, according to this article that he sat down and did this interview, 10 places you're most likely to catch coronavirus. Look, let's look. First of one, bars, right here. Fauci repeatedly warned Americans that Americans should consider one place a no-go zone. Repeatedly, it says, which are bars. Bars, really not good, really not good. This is what he said. Congress at a bar inside, it's bad news. But Congress at a bar inside is bad news. Congress. Congregation at a bar. I should have read this before I got on this video, but that's my fault. I just saw the headline and I thought it was an interesting thing because I actually listened to the video and I found this article here. But he said congregation at a bar inside is bad news. This is what he's saying, quote, we really have got to stop that, right? He said this June 30th. Senate hearing, right? But he don't want to say whether you can catch the coronavirus at a protest. But he said in large gatherings, you can catch the coronavirus. He did say that. I give him that. But he won't say a protest catches it. Next one he says, schools without proper planning He said it. As a general principle, we should try our best as possible to keep children in schools. Fauci said that on July 14. However, he emphasized that reopening plans should be customized and consider the severity of the pandemic in each local, area, right? So these are things he's saying, specific things, as he said in the video, that is not his job. It's not his job to say what should close down, but he's saying it right here. Airplanes and public transportation. He said, I'm 17 years old. I'm not getting on a plane. Fauci told Washington Post on an interview on July 3rd. I have been on flights where I've been seated near people who were sneezing and coughing, and then 3 days later, I've gotten it. So, no chance. And he's talking about regular codes and regular things. The next one is crowds. He said this in the video, crowds. Let me ask you something. No, let me read this first. Fauci has repeatedly warned that large gatherings should be avoided right now. Look at some of the film clips that you've seen of congregating often without masks, of being in crowds and not paying attention to the guidelines that we very carefully put out, he said. We're going to continue to be in a lot of trouble, and there's going to be a lot of hurt if that does not stop. He said crowds. Now, mind you, he said this, and I think this, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, it was in conjunction with during a time when the people were actually protesting the lockdown. And it was white people with their guns and their AR-15s, and everybody was talking about, oh, look at these racist people. Well, nobody knew if they were racist. They were just calling them racist because there were white people with guns. I think that's kind of irresponsible, right? Maybe they should call every black person with guns criminals, and then we'll all be mad about that. But we can call every white person with guns racist. But that's a whole nother. We'll talk about that we're going to talk about that in another video. I'm going to call that mindsets. We're going to talk about mindsets in another video. But so he said crowds. Let me ask you something. Isn't a protest a crowd? And if that protest brings more people than sitting in a bar, because right now churches were only allowed to have 100 people in their churches, and they're always socially distanced and they had to wear masks. But crowds of thousands of people protesting, whether it's Black Lives Matter or whether it was the conservative people who were I don't think it was just all conservative people, but let me not say that because I might be wrong and I don't want nobody getting on me. But the people who were protesting the lockdown not too long ago, whether it's Antifa out there doing their thing, whether it's pro-life people or pro-choice people out there, he said, or any marches that we do, he said, crowds. Isn't protesting crowds? So some reason he couldn't say that. Now, I know Jordan was talking about Black Lives Matter crowds, but those are the people protesting right now. So he's all in his right to ask, is it okay for Black Lives Matter or Antifa or whoever's doing this stuff to protest right now, if that's going to spread the virus? Right? Let me see. 5, restaurants. I'm not going to read all this stuff because my video is getting too long. Parties at home with the people you know. Mind you, people you know that may not even have a coronavirus, because obviously in your circles, you're going to know if your friend has coronavirus. And you're probably going to tell that person to stay home. But I'm sorry, you can't come to my stuff. Okay, got you, but we can protest, right? But you won't say church. We see church is number 7. Number 8, the gym. That's a boot. Another one, a cruise ship, which I understand. Indoors. Just indoors, period. Wait. Anywhere indoors, we're not. So you want to, wait. This is the oxymoron about this. They don't want you to be indoors, but go stay in your house. I don't know. I got questions. Some of this stuff ain't adding up, guys. Some of this stuff ain't adding up. And then I guess it goes in how to avoid COVID-19. We can read that a little bit later. But that's not the point. This is Fauci's recommendations of where you can catch COVID, guys. 10 places most likely to catch COVID. But he could not say, he would not say whether you would catch it at a protest. Because he said that's not his job. But didn't he just do this in every interview? They quoted him in these interviews. So this is what I mean by people like, we got to start really thinking about some of the things that our government is putting forth on us. Because if you don't, you're going to look up and you're going to find out, yo, we have no more freedoms. Yo, we're not in a free country anymore. I can't start a business without getting permission from the government. Oh, man, they say if I start this business, it's not essential. We want to be like China, where China has to approve your business. And not only when you start your business, you're not allowed to make so much money. That's the kind of thing that we want, because that's what everybody's saying. Rich people, or all these people who made all this money is bogus. If we're not careful, we're going to vote away those freedoms. Every one of us want to be successful. Every one of us want to have millions. And every one of us in America has that ability. We're the only country where you can come and have an idea and become a millionaire off of it. Why do you think so many people are immigrating here? People are coming here for the opportunity to be rich that they don't have in any other country. But we finna tear that foundation out. Right here, we're already starting by allowing them to do things under the guise of a pandemic, and that's not even law. There's no law that says that. We're allowing our judges to be biased. Our judges are not supposed to be biased, and saying that they can do that, and there's no law. At the end of the day, I read law as a hobby. I've been doing this since, 2002 I've been reading laws. I mean, all kind of laws. I love reading law. That's just something I do. I read it. I look at it. I look at case files just because I want to. They're fun. I think they're interesting. It's been one of my hobbies. And I've not read a law under a pandemic that you can take people's rights. We should be able to protest. We should also be able to have church. We should also be able to go to our gyms and enjoy our food in restaurants. Just like any other pandemic we've had, just like any other sickness that moves around, we should be able to have the right to go and do those things. The thing is, they're lying to us, and this has to stop. Dr. Fauci is starting to become very uncredible to me, because one minute you can tell us what places not to go to you, but because it's not politically, politically advantageous for you, you can't say whether a protest should be closed down or not. And I think the point that he was making, and this is my point as well, is you can't say one thing can happen and then say another can't. If we're trying to live in a truly fair and unbiased and unracist society, you cannot tell people that they can't go to church, but you can let people protest, because they're both gatherings. They're both large crowds. Either it is or it isn't. Otherwise, you're going to have problems. We're going to create more problems. That's my video. If you like my video, make sure you like, subscribe. If you think, Chris, you're full of it, comment. I don't care. Chris, if I like what you're saying and you right, you can comment too. But like, subscribe, share, do all the stuff. Let's join the conversation. You never know. One day, I might bring you on to talk about one of these topics over again, because, I do like to revisit topics, because, things develop and things change. And all I got to say is, we out here in these streets. We out here in these streets.